noon hour is here.
Check it out.
And you're locked on to Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio station.
It's my station. It's my station.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, happy Monday, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I hope you're all having a great day. Let's get it. Let's get going on the week.
Guests? We don't need no stinking guests.
No. We got a lot to talk about.
It was a good weekend, man. Jam-packed full of good college basketball. Again, college basketball to the rescue.
I know, right?
Holy cow.
You saw a crazy comeback down there. I thought they were dead in the water.
Where would we be right now if it wasn't for Utah State and BYU? Man, they are holding all the weight here in the state for sports.
Yep.
It was amazing, yeah. The Marriott Center was a lot of fun. Took the wife on a little work date.
Yeah.
You know, anytime you can call it a date but still work, it's a pretty good outing.
She loves those.
Well, the last one I went on was to the Spectrum. So taking the wife up to the Spectrum and to the Utah State game. And it's funny because I've had a couple people ask me, okay, well, what's the comparison? What'd you think? You can't compare them. They are so uniquely different.
Yeah, yeah.
They are
that's
not like the other.
Well, and that's the cool thing about college basketball is every place has its own identity. And you can't be like, well, this is just better than the other. No, they're different.
They're way different.
They're just different. I mean, BYU just has the sheer enormity of the place and the sheer numbers. You know, Utah State, I think, is a little bit more creative in what they do and how they try to get under your skin because they don't have the numbers, but yet they also they got the volume, too, to go along with it. It's just different. And you can't be like one's better than the other because both have their advantages and can make life miserable for the opponents.
They do, and it was different because the night that I went to the Spectrum and watched Utah State, Boise State, they were honoring Stu Morrill, and there was a lot of energy and excitement around that. When I was just walking to my seats, Lloyd and I, Jessica and Amanda, we probably passed 18, maybe 20 former players, maybe more. How many former players did you say?
I think they said they had like 60.
There were so many former players. I saw former Aggie football players that were out there, bumped into a couple buddies that I knew, and a couple of former teammates. I bumped into Brandon Stevens, who came out of Logan High School and played at BYU. Came in as a tight end, ended up, I think, as a D end. Was fantastic. And it was just one of those nights, Scott. It was a blast. And then the Marriott Center on Saturday night was just, it was like panic. It was like, TCU did a really good job of taking the fans out of it in the first half.
Yeah.
You know, I actually took some video of the game getting started and the students section, by the way, arrives early, jam-packed from floor to ceiling and wall to wall and all kinds of energy. And they get there early, and that was a lot of fun. And the energy was great. And TCU just sucked the energy right out of the building. But what was interesting, and by the way, Brian Estridge out there, and
yeah, he made it.
He made it.
Yeah.
I said, how close was it? He goes, it was close. Scotty G was almost calling a broadcast for the TCU Horned Frogs.
And Brian, who's the play-by-play guy for TCU, was texting me in the middle of the show on Friday and said, hey, we got some issues with our flights. I might need you to call the game. So I was doing a little I was prepping for some Horned Frog basketball.
Uh-huh. That would have been fun.
That would have been a blast. Yeah.
He came up in the stands. I was just a few rows behind him, and he came up and he said, I think Scotty probably would have done a better job anyways.
No, that's
like I should have stayed home.
Brian's a good dude.
He is a great dude. But TCU comes out, and they were banging, dude. They were banging. TCU was throwing elbows and throwing bodies, and Every time you were trying to drive, every time you pushed into the paint, every time you got to the block, anytime you tried to make any movement, they weren't going over or under, they were going through, and they were just getting physical. And that's a physical crew.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, oh no, this is brutal. 17-point deficit at the half.
Yeah.
And then
you thinking got a little bit of the old Kansas hangover there.
Yeah, a little bit of the old Kansas hangover. And then Scotty, it's almost like Coach Pope went into halftime and said, "Yeah, all right. We're done banging." And Foose raises his hand and says, "No, I want to bang." "Oh, okay. Well, let's put Foose in. He can bang. And then we're just going to shoot everything on the outside." And because I think they were like 1 of 12 or 1 of 13 in the first half. Then we're going to start dropping threes. So Nell comes out. He drops a three. They start pushing the ball into Foose, who's, Terore, he's not a world beater, but it's like he was like, "Oh, you guys want to push? You guys want to bang? You guys want to shove?" And he gets physical in the second half. He starts throwing his weight around, scores an exorbitant amount of points. Nell drops a bunch of threes, and they start hitting these threes. Jackson Robinson hits a big three there with about 2 minutes left to really extend and push some distance in between them and TCU. And they overcome a 17-point deficit at the half to get a win.
Crazy.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah, I thought they were done. I absolutely thought they were done. I did not in a million years. When I was watching that in the first half, I'm like, wow, this really sucks. A lot of the momentum you built for Kansas, you're not going to carry over. And oops, that was not the case. They absolutely carried it over. And it was a huge win, absolutely huge win for BYU. Utah State got the win against Air Force as expected. Not the prettiest win, but they are able to get the victory. And we'll be in San Jose. In fact, I'll be doing the show the next couple days in San Jose, California, tomorrow and Wednesday. So they'll play Wednesday night in San Jose, and then they'll wrap things up Saturday against New Mexico.
Where are you seeing Utah State right now on different seedings?
Anywhere from 6 to 8, around there.
I'm seeing BYU anywhere 4 to 7.
Yep. I think Utah State's just a little step behind there, but hey, all I care about if I'm Utah State, and I think BYU is certainly a lock, and I think Utah State's right there on the edge of being a lock. If they lose to San Jose and lose to New Mexico and lose in the first round of the tournament, they might be sweating some bullets. But they beat San Jose, and that New Mexico game is going to be a bit of a toss-up. New Mexico's a good team. And then, they make it to at least the semis. They're fine. Utah State should be fine. I just want to see both these teams as a top 7 or top 8 seed, essentially wearing your home jerseys. If you're a top 8 seed, 1 through 8, you're wearing your homes. And so that's why I always say, like, if you get to wear your home jerseys in the NCAA tournament, you've had yourself a hell of a season.
Hey, guys, what do you think's more improbable? Utah State at 12-4 and leading the Mountain West Conference, or BYU at 9-7 and whatever it is, 4 or 5 deep in the Big 12?
I would say both crazy and probable, considering what Utah State had to go through.
But what's more ridiculous?
But I think BYU being 9-7, a year after they were 7-9, or they had a losing record in West Coast play last year, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a rough year. Really rough year.
I can't remember exactly what their conference schedule was last year, but it wasn't, or record was, but it wasn't good.
Yeah, I'll pull it up really quick.
BYU. Of course, our show was better last year too. Remember, our show was better than it was this year.
What, last year?
No. It was better. It was better this year than it was last year.
Our show's better this year?
This year, yes.
Oh yeah. Our show's improbable this year.
Yeah, improbable.
BYU was 7-9 in West Coast play last year.
Thanks, Mark Durant.
19-15 overall. Their conference losses included.
They had a 4-game stretch where they lost to Pepperdine, Gonzaga, Santa Clara, St. Mary's. Earlier, they lost 3 in a row to Santa Clara, San Francisco, St. Mary's. They lost to Loyola Marymount. I mean, there's some bad losses in there.
And now they sit 9-7 in Big 12 play.
They lost to South Dakota last year. I forgot about that game.
21-8 overall.
Who knew?
By the way, kind of a difficult 2-game finish. One very difficult, and then Oklahoma State. So Oklahoma State, let's see. I think they're at the bottom of the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa State's a rough one. But here's the thing. If you would have looked at this 4-game stretch here after that Kansas State loss, Kansas, TCU, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, I would have told you had BYU gone 1-3 in that stretch, I say you take it. But now looking at it, a good chance you go 3-1. Maybe 4-0. Like Iowa State on the road, that's a tough one. That's a really tough game to play. So let's say, just for the sake of argument, you lose that game. You come back home, you beat Oklahoma State. You're 3-1 in a 4-game stretch that includes, and I'm looking at KenPom numbers, 17th ranked Kansas, 32 ranked TCU, and 10 ranked Iowa State. Jeez, absolutely you take that.
Yeah. Iowa State's going to be a tough one, though.
Yes, very much so.
But we thought Kansas would be improbable going into Allen and getting a win, but Iowa State right now 12-4 in Big 12 play.
I mean, honestly,
23-6 overall.
If I were to tell you back in August who's going to have more success in year one, the BYU football team or the BYU basketball team in Big 12 play, you would have said the football team.
1,000%.
Yeah, you'd think, okay, you know what? There's going to be some struggles, but they should go to a bowl game. They should be 6-6, 7-5. Yet the football team doesn't go to a bowl game. They have the 3 or 4 game losing streak to end the season. Whereas the basketball team has had themselves a phenomenal year. And again, coming off what they did last year, it's been really cool to see.
Well, that comeback, guys, it was ridiculous. I posted a few videos of some of the crowd reaction, some of the big shots down the stretch as BYU was extending. And I talked about Fusarore. He ended up with 23 minutes. Scotty, he was 8 of 11 from the field, 21 points, 7 rebounds. And in my opinion, he was the engine that got things really going. His competitive edge, it's weird because it's not like he towers people. In fact, he's one of the shorter. He's just really stocky.
Yeah.
And he's thick. And he uses his leverage good, drops his hips, pushes well, knows his angles well, knows some of his limitations, knows how far he can get off a leap. And he uses a lot of that as he's getting to the rim. Just monitors what he does well. But more than anything, I think he's the physical engine for that BYU basketball team. Because as much as everybody loves Ali Khalifa, and believe me, I'm one of those guys. I love his game. Ali was not a fit for TCU.
No.
But that's also encouraging if you're a BYU fan or if you're Coach Pope, because you're like, oh, okay, so we can win without Ali Khalifa. We can win without him being overly productive, because he wasn't killing it in the assist department. He definitely wasn't killing it in the offensive department. He wasn't even really killing it off the boards, even though he had one pretty clutch board. And still BYU's like, nah, we're all right. We're all right. Hey, Terrari, go in there and take care of business.
Yeah. Well, and that's what you're going to have if you're going to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament, is that you're going to need, on any given night, some dude to come out of nowhere. And not like he came out of nowhere. He's been a good player all year, but a guy that's got to be the guy, And it's got to be a situation where, okay, this isn't working. This isn't working. This is a bad matchup. Okay, this isn't setting up the way we'd like. Okay, who's going to come in there and make a play? And I've talked to coaches all the time that have said this. When you're having a night where the energy's not there, or it's a bad matchup, or something, you've got to have somebody. It could be your best guy. It could be your third guy coming off the bench. But you need somebody to come in there and say, all right, I got this. I'll make a play.
Yeah.
And then everybody else just feeds off of it.
Yep.
And you know it better than anybody playing in sports. There's something that, like, let's say you're on the road, you're playing at Wyoming or whatever the case is back in the day, and you guys, you feel like you're just running through mud and nobody seems to be, it just isn't clicking. And it's a close game, and it's just like, for whatever reason, the energy, the focus isn't there. And then all of a sudden, here comes Hoke, who slips past a guard and has a strip sack. And then all of a sudden, it just clicks. Mm-hmm. And then it's a feeding frenzy for everybody.
Yep.
And that's the cool thing about sports, and that's what's so much fun about covering sports, is that when you watch a game closely, you can go back and you can identify one or two moments of a game and say, that's where it flipped. And it can be that simple.
So the bizarre thing is where I would say that flipped, and I don't know, I might be the only one in existence that sees it this way, but the way I felt it flipped was when the very first, I think it was first, maybe second offensive possession of the second half, Trevin Knell drops a
yes,
three.
100%.
And it was like, oh, okay, so 1-13 was embarrassing. That first half was bad, but we're not going to stop shooting. And now averages should work out. You know, if you believe in averages should work out. And he drops that three, and everything starts cranking. And then, like I mentioned, Troy starts clapping his hands, and he starts getting into it mentally, and he starts bullying people and pushing people around. But TCU's a good team.
Yeah.
TCU's a really good team. I was impressed by them.
Well, I remember I was talking to an assistant coach, and it was after Utah State was playing Oregon in an NIT game. Mm-hmm. And Utah State, it was the end of it was like 2 or 3 minutes left in the first half, and Utah State led by 8. And they had a possession. They missed a easy shot. Oregon came down and hit a three, and ended up being like a 2 or 3 point game at halftime, and Oregon ended up winning fairly easily in the second half. And this coach told me, and this is why I brought it up, because this has always stuck with me. He goes, there was a moment. We hit that shot. We're up double digits, and this team, who probably didn't really want to be in this tournament anyway, probably shuts it down mentally. He goes, but they come down, they stick a big three on the other end, they get reengaged. He goes, those are the little moments. If Nell doesn't hit that three, mm-hmm. and TCU gets a loose ball, it's a long rebound, they get a transition bucket going the other way, that game's probably over.
Extends to 19.
The game's probably over at that point.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly how I felt watching it. The margin of error, especially in collegiate basketball, is so razor thin, where things can change so quickly, and it's really fascinating. It can be maddening when you're on the other side of it, and it can be absolutely enthralling if you're one of the 18,000 people who were in the Marriott Center, and you've got a game that you'll remember for a long time. If you went to that game, and that's the one game you went to this year, you're going to remember that game forever. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember my uncle was a big BYU fan growing up. In fact, rest in peace, just passed away about a year ago. But anyway, he would take us to a BYU game every now and then. And I remember this was like Ty Detmer's Heisman Trophy year. And they had beaten Miami. They'd beaten, I don't know, I think they were undefeated to start the season. They were playing Washington State at home. And Washington State's just kicking the trash out of them, up by, 17, 18 at halftime. And BYU comes back and wins that game. My uncle would always talk, and now look, that dude bled blue like crazy. But my uncle would be like, hey, remember that time I took you to that BYU game and they came back and beat Washington State? I'm like, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was a fun game. Oh, that was the best game I ever went to. And the dude went to tons of games. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was the game because it was
burned in his mind.
Such a crazy comfort mind victory. There will be people that will remember that game against TCU for a long time, regardless of how that season ends. And it all comes down to one or two plays.
Not the biggest comeback in Pope history. But it's the largest second half comeback. It was the largest first half deficit that he'd faced and come back from. But he'd had, I think it was like 21 or 22 points that he came back at some tournament, maybe in the Bahamas or something. Mm. But the biggest halftime deficit that he's come back from. And you could feel it in the arena, that's for sure. People could sense it. You know who else was working hard off it? We had Dallin Hall on Friday.
Yeah.
That came on with us. He was great, too.
Yeah, good conversation.
By the way, we got another conversation today with...
Yeah, Josh Uduje from Utah State will join us at 1:30.
So that'll be a fun conversation. But Dallin Hall was Mr. Do-It-All, grabbing big, clutch rebounds, hitting clutch assists, dropping clutch baskets when they really needed it to get going in the second half. And he was the most consistent thing that you could find from the three. He was still cranking them outside and hitting really critical shots that this team really needed in that comeback. But that's I think that's a 29-point swing.
Yeah. It's not like BYU just won it by 2.
Yeah, 17, and you win by 12.
You end up winning that by 12.
It's a 29-point swing at half.
I mean, what is it? You outscored TCU 58-29 in the second half?
Yeah, that's exactly it. 58-29.
That's insane.
It was fun. It was a really fun one to be at. And BYU fans, man, they're passionate. But you can't compare the Spectrum and the Marriott Center. They're both incredible in their own unique ways.
Yeah.
And BYU's got they do a really good job with their in-game operations.
Oh yeah, no, they do a great job.
They had a
from top to bottom down
big
there.
tumbling routine, and then Cosmo did some magic show and
went through a ring of fire.
Did he do that
Don't
down there?
lose our heads out there. No.
He's done it before.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure he's done it a handful of times, but no, it was man, they were chucking these cheerleaders up. They were almost touching the speakers on the overhead screens. It's as high as I've seen cheerleaders being thrown. It was high enough my wife was alarmed by it. I was like, I don't know.
Boy, that looks dangerous.
I'm like, man, if they don't catch that person, we're looking at death.
I got it. I got it.
You get your little cougar tail?
No, I didn't. I've been trying to watch my calories.
Okay. What did you consume anything down there?
No.
Really?
No. I was actually in the middle of a 24-hour fast on Saturday. Just trying to heal the body. I've got bad bacteria in my gut or something. I don't know what's going on.
You can heal the body when you're dead.
Saw a picture of myself from Friday, and it was alarming.
What picture?
Knock it off.
You know the one.
Oh, those pictures? Those are great pictures.
I know. They're good.
Anyways, fun weekend. Excited to see what BYU and Utah State do to finish off the regular season. More excited for conference tournaments.
Oh, let's go.
10 times more excited for NCAA tournament play.
Next week, folks, we will be in Vegas. We got all kinds of fun stuff coming up. It's going to be an absolute blast next week. You got Big 12, you got Pac-12, you got Mountain West, all kinds of fun stuff coming up right here on The Zone. All right, Hans and Scotty, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Take a break, come back. Jazz, doing what the Jazz have been doing a lot of lately. Taking an L. We'll break it down next. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
You need to see this Jazz team up close and in person.
Oh, that was filthy.
Listen all day, every Tuesday, for your chance to win Jazz tickets. As The Zone will give away Jazz tickets at 30 past the hour, every hour, all day long. It's Jazz Ticket Tuesday. Every Tuesday, all season long, presented by UCCU. Love where you bang. And on your exclusive home of the Utah Jazz. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Looking for the latest on the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, and Aggies? Yeah, we've got you covered. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the Sports Zone.
Keyonte, left baseline drive. 3 Heat players come over. Keyonte stops from 8 feet, floats it up and in, and Keontae's got himself 19 points. Keyonte, ball fakes a 3, feeling it with 25 tonight. Crosses over, drives into the defense, gets open the lane, finger rolls, scoop and a score! Feel this moment, Keyonte! Hendricks boards, pushes ahead to Keyonte, slides by Rozier, tight roping the sideline. Left-hand drive to the rack, finger roll, scoop with the right, and it's a 4-point game. And Keyonte George has 29. Hendricks has 13 rebounds as the rookies have come to play in Miami. Great games for Keyonte and Taylor Hendricks. A lot of bright spots tonight, no question. Keyonte gets the lane for 31. 31 for Keyonte, 8 points, 13 rebounds for Taylor Hendricks.
12:34, Hanson Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jazz lose to the Miami Heat, 126-120. But you heard Will Hardy talk about Keyonte George. Ended up with 31 points. That's right, 31, including 6 of 14 from the three-point line. We talk about walking away from games in which you're not really expected to win, but you want to have takeaways. Well, Keyonte George gave you a pretty nice takeaway.
Man, what's going on with your salsa making capabilities, bud? You're taking the next level. I'd say it's restaurant quality, but there's not restaurant quality like that. And why don't restaurants go to more of the pepper-based salsa like that? That's what I don't understand.
This is not a tomato-based salsa. This is all jalapeno-based.
Which it's 10 times better.
My salsa verde. Lloyd doesn't like it, though, which is fine.
Hold on.
Man, you are something
I got to stick up for my guy, Lloyd, because
come on.
Scotty brought us into a room, and he's like, listen, guys, I want you to be overly critical. Give me, like, any advice you think on this. Now, I felt like that original one that you did, because I couldn't eat the avocado one, I felt like it was just perfect. If anything, touched too much heat, but really the heat was right on point. And Lloyd,
so your complaint is a touch too much heat. You know what? You can't have any. Nope, none for you.
Don't do this.
You can't have any. Yeah. Too hot? Get out.
Scotty brought a whole case of this salsa in for me that he's made, and I've already gone through half of it, of course, outside in the foyer.
Oh, yeah, not in the studio.
And I went to share some with Lloyd because I got us a couple of bean and cheese burritos because I thought, you gave me a heads up.
I texted you that because you had asked me for some. Lloyd, had you asked for some, I would have brought you some in too.
That's my fault.
But your salsa it's off.
Have you tried this version?
I haven't yet. No,
I'm kind of curious.
I got to step out of the prod room to try it.
You thought it was a little more spicy? I actually think that's a little more mild.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I think that's a touch more mild.
It's interesting when you work with jalapenos, you're never quite sure what you're going to get.
You can get some that are really hot, and before you know it, it's out of control. Or you can get some that's like, I need a little more kick.
Yeah.
Your salsa is way better than the Utah Jazz. And it should be talked about more often.
Am I here's the thing too, I feel so domesticated too. This is I also spent a bunch of time working because I'm doing this barbecue competition. Mm-hmm. So I was working on trying to do chicken thighs over the weekend and all this stuff. And I'm like, who am I? Like the 25.
What category did you select?
I'm doing all 4 meats: brisket, chicken,
pork,
pulled pork, and ribs. Yeah. Now it's not coming up until July. I got plenty of time.
So I thought you were doing a steak competition.
I'm doing that too.
Is that part of the same?
No, it's a different type of competition.
Oh.
But anyway.
So are you going to start getting the mobile smokers and everything?
I would love to. I would love to. But here's the thing. All of a sudden I'm taking a step back. I'm looking. I'm like, who am I? What? When did I turn into this old boring guy? I'm taking so much pride in making salsa. It was like a literal joy of mine over the weekend when I tried that salsa. Because my basketball game is on Friday night. So Saturday I had to myself. And Jenny.
How nice was that, by the way?
Oh, it was awesome.
Getting a Saturday night. And
so I go to the grocery store and I'm like, and you were saying hey, I need more of that salsa. I'm like,
yeah.
And I'm walking down the grocery aisle and I'm like, let's make some salsa. So I grab all the jalapenos and serrano peppers and all that stuff. And I get home and it's snowing. So I can't really do anything outside. And so I'm like, let's make it now. And so I'm over there in the kitchen, like that dude from the Muppets, just throwing all this stuff together. And I'm like, and it comes out and it's great. And I'm like, who am I? What has happened to me in my life? I'm thrilled and also disgusted with myself all in one fell swoop.
It's was it Lyle Lovitz in The Wedding Singer? When he's behind the curtain, he goes, he's losing his mind. And I am reaping all the benefits.
Yes.
I'm reaping the benefits. You make all the sauce you want, bring it in. You've noticed I've already gone through half that with one bean and cheese burrito.
I know. As soon as we leave, you and Lloyd are going to be texting hey, our guy's Betty Crocker. Look at. And I'm like, I can totally understand you guys making fun of me, and I would deserve it too. I would 1,000% deserve it.
That may have already been texted.
Oh man,
because it's really good. But something along those lines. We're just glad that you're out there cooking, man, because we want to take it all in.
Well, Lloyd doesn't.
Lloyd loves it. Lloyd, you love it.
Yes, I do love it.
I gave Lloyd a cup to go with his bean and cheese. By the way, so I just thought, I like to do these beginning of the weeks, but at the end of the NBA regular season, I like to do the beginning of the week predictions for the Utah Jazz remaining schedule. I've done it a couple times this year. One time was very optimistic. So you ready for my 21 games left?
Yeah.
21 games left.
Okay.
21.
It's probably going to be a little bit different than it was a few weeks ago.
Okay. I think out of these final 21 games, and I'm going to ask you about 3 games, but out of these final 21 games, there are 2 games they should be favored in out of the 21. They should be favored, well, they are favored tonight, so we know that. 5.5-point favorite tonight against the Wizards. And then they should be favored against the San Antonio Spurs at home.
Yep.
Okay, now tell me this. The only other opportunity that they've got to be favored through the rest of the season is the 3 Houston Rockets games. That's it.
Yeah.
2 of them are at home. 1 is on the road. I mean, they could be favored against Atlanta because it's at home, but Atlanta just beat them. And so I thought when that rolls around here in a week, or whatever it is, I think it's about a week away that they play Atlanta again, that Atlanta would probably be favored because I think Atlanta is actually headed the different direction, and I think the Jazz are headed straight down. So Atlanta would probably be favored in that one. So you've got the Wizards and the Spurs. The Houston Rockets, 3 games, 2 at home, 1 on the road. What do you think favorite-wise?
Not knowing, obviously injuries and things like that will have a...
Right, availability. And
1.
Houston right now is 26-34.
Yeah. You'd be favored against them at home.
So this is the way I looked at it. I thought that there's 2 teams that they'd probably be favored against in the final 21.
Yeah.
4 at the very most if you give them 2 Houston games. But 3 is probably...
I'm giving you... The 1 is the one
likely.
Houston game. I agree with you with San Antonio.
Okay.
So I guess if you add the Washington, San Antonio, and I'm going to give you one Houston game, then 3.
There you go. You'd be favored 3 out of the final 21.
Yeah.
Out of the final 21 games, only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those are against a non-top 10 seed or a potential play-in.
Yeah.
Everybody else, top 10 seed. You've got, let's see, so 16 of those are playing in better teams. You got 9 of them that are road games. And the way I kind of worked down my list, I ended up at 6-15 in the final 21. 6-15 in the final 21. That puts them at 33-49 on the season.
Well, you don't have to worry about conveying a pick at that point. I think you're being optimistic. I think it could be 4 or 5 wins the remainder of the year.
You think so?
Yeah, I just don't think this team's interested in winning. I just don't think they're I don't think they care. Like, that's not a priority. Okay, that's the wrong word. Will Hardy, if you heard that, would reach through the microphone and want to strangle me. I don't think it's a priority to win. I think Keyonte George and his development is more of a priority. Taylor Hendricks and his development is more of a priority. I just don't think that the Jazz right now, and that seeps down into the players. Like, the players don't see it as a priority. Those dudes are on Travelocity right now trying to find a way to book their vacations for the middle of April for Cancun.
I think they're checked out.
They're checked out mentally because they know, look, the front office, if you're a player, you should want to win because you don't want your team to draft your replacement. All right? That's 100% true. So you want to be giving your best film out there. You want to be doing everything you possibly can. But it's still human nature. When your bosses don't necessarily put a priority on winning, why should you? And again, this isn't a knock on the Jazz. I think Danny Ainge is doing the right thing. I think that it's a long game. I'm not saying that they don't care about winning. I just don't think it's a priority right now. Now, is it a priority for 26, 27, 28? Yes, absolutely. And what they're doing now is setting the stage for that. But if I'm a player right now in the present, if I'm Larry Markin, I'm like, why?
Why?
Why does this matter? I know I'm going to get a big fat extension. I know I'm part of their long-term plans. I know I'm a great player in the league. But if they don't care about right now, why should I care about the last 20 games?
Yeah, I agree. 33 and 49. Let's just say they finish that. If optimistic or not, if they finish 33 and 49 last year, Scotty, that would have put him at the 5th worst record in the NBA last year. 33 and 49. So my guess is if they do finish where I predict them in the final 21 to finish, my guess is they're somewhere between 5 and 8, and they will not convey. Now, that doesn't mean that they use the pick and keep the pick. They can move it and do all kinds of wonderful things with it. But I think that that's probably going to push to 2024-25 season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I would imagine if you're in that 5 range, I would imagine the Jazz probably use the pick and see if they can hit something.
I do too. Absolutely, they do.
And that would give them a pick at number 5, a pick at number 28 or 29, and then a pick at like 31 or 32 with the moves that they've made so far this season.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, which you may have missed. Coming up next, Josh Uduje from Utah State will join us coming up at 1:30 right here on The Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
Joined now by the Hall of Famer Steve Young.
I heard Boomer Esiason make a statement that he feels like if Zach Wilson went and spent a year or two with Andy Reid, that he would be able to blossom as far as being an NFL quarterback. What is your response to that?
Quarterbacks thrive with support. You'd think there'd be so many organizations that figured this out, and they just haven't. Zach is responsible for Zach's problems. Zach has to own that. No matter what, I think it's important that you say that and then make the changes, but I really believe of all the places that Zach could go to, my spot would go to Sean McVay and behind Matthew Stafford, because I think it's a spot where he could really understand the position, really get coached in a way that could be really profitable to him, and still could see the field in the near term, because Matthew's probably not going to play forever.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10. Presented by Murdoch Hyundai, Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer for 16 years in a row. On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Miss any part of the show? Every moment of every show is available in podcast form by searching Hans and Scotty on your favorite podcasting platform or online at KSLSports.com. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Tweet rolling in. Came in here looking for sports, and now I'm enamored with the salsa talk. I'm sorry. We're done. Okay?
Well, it's always okay, man. It's always okay. Because good salsa is hard to come by, and it's really hard to make good homemade salsa. And this is a really good chili salsa.
I don't know, man. It's funny you get to a point in your life of the things you get proud of.
Well, I think it's nice that you're proud of it. You should be. Did you watch any of the NFL Combine?
Not really, no.
Lloyd, did you watch any NFL Combine?
A little bit.
Although,
like what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes?
I might have given it
Did you find some
maybe
local
30,
guys,
40 minutes, something like that.
I
watch
the
mainly
problem
the
is-
highlights on social.
problem is I need like a schedule. Like, hey, you know what? We're going to see this guy run at this time. So I'm like, okay, I can watch him run. But I'll say this. I didn't watch it live. I did go back, and I had to go back and watch the Keaton Slovis 40.
To see if it was real?
Because that doesn't make any sense at all.
I know.
I mean, we were led to believe this guy had center blocks for feet, and all of a sudden he goes out and runs a faster 40 than Puka Nacua did last year, or Jaron Hall did.
Keaton Slovis was the fastest quarterback at 4.55 on a 40.
What?
Fastest quarterback in the NFL Combine at 4.55. And it wasn't just the 40 time. All of his testing numbers were spectacular. And a little birdie told me, a little tiny Tweety bird told me that he threw extremely well. And he said, watch out. You might see this guy slip into the draft.
Because that makes sense. So why? Okay, so again, all right. I know he dealt the injuries and the things like that, but if this dude's out there running 4.55s, and what do we keep hearing over and over? You got to adjust the offense because he's not Jaron Hall. He's not Jaron Hall. He's not Jaron Hall. Jaron Hall could do things that he couldn't do. Well, okay, and I get it. It's not just about straightaway speed, but the dude ran a 4.55. You telling me we couldn't? You know, if you remember that coaching staff, you can't use him in terms of the running game. I mean, look, I'm a layman on this one, so explain this to me.
Okay, I will. So when Kedon Slovis was at Pitt, Pitt's more of a run and shoot than BYU. Yes. Pitt needs more of a running quarterback in that offense than BYU needs in this offense. And they couldn't get it out of him. And when Kedon Slovis scrambled in for like a 1 yard or 2 yard rushing touchdown for BYU last year, you know that was his first rushing touchdown.
Yeah.
In his college playing career. He ended up, I think, with 3 because I think he had 2 rushing touchdowns in one game, but nothing that was overly athletic. It was like 1 yard. One of the rushing touchdowns might have been like 12 yards or something that he was in the red zone and found off the left side and got in. But very, very few times did he take off. That didn't mean that he didn't have the green light to take off.
No.
So I think it's more how he feels about himself than how coordinators feel about the way they could use him. Because they look at him and they're like, you don't want to run? You don't want to get out? Because, Scotty, a quarterback doesn't just go out and run 4.55 at a combine, and the OCs didn't have an idea of where he was before that combine.
I would certainly hope that would be the case.
They all know you test to a large degree. You test, and I guarantee you there were times out there on the field where Kedon was outrunning very athletic dudes, and coaches are looking around like, "Geez, he must be pretty fast." Now, why can't we get him involved in the run game? Because he doesn't want to run. He doesn't like to be physical. Doesn't want to get hit. Doesn't want to really put his body on the line. I saw a guy that really wanted to be known as a pocket passer. I saw a quarterback that wanted to be known as a cerebral quarterback that looked through his reads, that delivered on time, and running and putting his body at risk was not the first and foremost for him.
Yeah.
But 4.55 would tell you, geez, man, this guy should have been running all over the field for Pitt and BYU.
Well, and again, I get everything you're saying, and when it's a one and done and you need help at that quarterback position, you know, you take what you can get and you concede some things when you're like, hey, look, this is what we do. And Keaton's like, well, you know, this is where I feel like I'm at my best. And so I understand that. But also, if I'm an OC and you have that skill set available to you, it's like, guess what? You don't have a choice. I need you running this stuff.
Yeah. But you know what else is weird about just Kedon on the field? 4.55 straight away on a 40 is just not representative of shifting through a tackle, moving lateral, and trying to get, you know, to the edge.
Yeah, and
to get some yardage.
And you're 100% right there. And I'm falling into a trap that I say all the time because it does seem like there are some players out there, the further they get away from actual football and they're just working out, the more their stock goes up. Mm-hmm. As opposed to other guys, the further they get away from the game, their stock goes down because people forget about what they did actually on a football field and just look at the numbers. And so I'm falling in that trap a little bit here with Kedon Slovis. And because when you watch Jaron Hall play football on the field and you watch Kedon Slovis play football on the field, there's no way in God's green earth you think that Kedon Slovis would run a 40-yard dash faster than Jaron Hall. Jaron Hall plays
not a chance.
Plays much faster and looks way more athletic on a football field playing the game of football than Kedon Slovis ever could.
Yep.
And same with Zach Wilson.
It was a heck of a 40 by Kedon.
So I get that, and again, I understand. I'm falling into that trap a little bit.
Well, I understand it too because 4.55 is not 4.68.
No.
It is not 4.72. 4.55 is pretty rarefied air for quarterbacks. You just don't see it. It's really fast for a quarterback. So I think it caught all of us off guard. A couple of other numbers that stood out to me. Devon Vele checked in at 6'4", 205 pounds. He ran a 4.47. Devon Vele is a draftable body.
Yeah.
At receiver. Cole Bishop ran a 4.45. I thought that number helped him.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I thought that number really helped him. Sione Vaki, his numbers didn't really blow anybody away, didn't really impress anybody. But I guarantee you all the drills that he ran, like anything he was doing off the side. For instance, did you see his hands drill? The hands drill across the field. You saw that, Lloyd?
That one where he had to jump up to get it?
Yeah, backwards, kind of a back thrown pass. It's that one where you catch, Scotty, drop, turn, catch, drop, run across the field, catch, drop, and then turn the corner. And he caught them all. And I think it was the second one that he was running across the field was thrown behind him, and he kind of jumped backwards and hooked it with the left hand and was able to pull it in. It was pretty sick. It was really good. So I promise you he impressed. So his numbers didn't blow anybody away, but I guarantee you he impressed.
At one point, he was top 3 as far as his position, anyways, with the bench. I think he had 20 reps.
20 reps, yeah. I think he ended top 3.
Did he end up top 3?
Yeah, so. he and Kingsley both ended top 3 in their positions.
I talked to somebody with some knowledge, said that Kingsley would be, the way it was put to me, he would be surprised if he's not in the top 40 in the draft. Meaning, if he's not in the first round, he's in the top 10 of the second round.
Yep, that's exactly it. His numbers were all very good.
And apparently he interviewed really well, too.
I wouldn't be surprised. I know Kingsley. I know that family a little bit. And he's extremely sharp. Incredible kid.
I'm telling you.
Really incredible kid.
When you look at who's going to be the number 1 pick in terms of from the state, Kingsley's probably going to be that guy.
Yeah.
I do think Cole Bishop's going to have the better career. I think Cole Bishop's going to be a star in the league. Maybe not when I say star, I'm not talking perennial all-star or Pro Bowl player, but I'm talking about a guy that's going to play 10 to 12 years and make a whole lot of money in the league.
And see, I wonder if Sione Vaki isn't kind of in that same vein.
Yeah.
Because Sione is so Eric Weddlish with his work ethic and his drive and his duality, and he'll go out and do anything special teams. He'll give you 100 reps in a game. He's going to blow you away in camp. He's going to impress you to the point where you're like, well, what are we going to do? Well, he's a great leader, and he moves well as safety. All right, let's let him float around. And I think Cole and Sione both have a real future. One guy that I wish I could go to and say, just don't go to the combat, just don't test, is Keaton Bills. I wish I could have just told Keaton, just don't test. Go.
Interview,
don't test, because Keaton Bill's numbers were not real good. Ran a 5.38 40, was only able to push 24 reps on 225.
Where do you want an offensive lineman in reps?
28 plus.
Okay.
Yeah, I want him 28 plus. Kingsley got 31. Nobody broke 40 this year. 39, I think, was the highest rep that was put up. But I'd like you, minimum of 28. But I'd like you to push into the 30s.
Yeah.
That's where I really want to get you. So I'm worried that Keaton probably did more harm than he did good. Jonah Ellis really didn't test. And I think he may have done more harm than good, because he went in and just measured out at 6'2", and was only 248 pounds. Wasn't at the 250-pound mark. So
is he still dealing with like a little bit of an injury though? Is that's what it was.
He's hamstringed up a bit, and I don't know exactly what his injury is, but yeah, he's wrapped up in a bit of that. But it's like with Jonah Ellis, there's so much of me that wished he would have just come back for one more year. I
really think that
I'm trying to separate my personal feelings about that from my projections for the NFL for him.
I would really like the NFL to be a little bit more lenient in terms of allowing guys to go through the combine process, go through this process a little further, and still return to school. We talk about, everybody wants to talk about the benefit of the athletes and things like that. If you really care about your athlete, allow them to test the waters a little bit more. I understand there needs to be a hard deadline. And it's got to be rough on coaches as they try to recruit and replace players to kind of figure out what their roster spots are going to look like. But honestly, we're only looking at maybe 1 or 2 guys every year.
I 1 million% agree.
Because I think
we'd see a lot of guys come back.
If you were to put some true serum in Jonah Ellis right now, I think Jonah would probably lean on coming back.
Yeah, because you heal up, you come out, get a 15, 18 sack performance, because he could do that in the Big 12, guys.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He could. He could rack up 15 sacks in the Big 12. And he could put himself on a really nice display. I know you can't push your height, though, but you could push your weight. Mm-hmm. You could put another 8 to 10 pounds of good, solid muscle, and then you check in, instead of 248, you check in at 256, and you look more broad in the shoulder, because when you're 6'2", and you're under 250, now I'm looking at you like an edge run liability.
Yep.
You're an edge run liability. And now I'm like, can I use him as just a third down weapon? But third down weapons have become a thing of the past right now in the NFL. You know, you've got these Max Crosbys and these Bosas, and you've got the prototypical edge player that is still not overly heavy, has insane endurance, and can give you 65 snaps.
And he can hold an edge. On 3rd and 3.
Yes.
And also get after your quarterback on 3rd and 8.
Yes. So the specialty rush is kind of gone. And I think a lot of the specialty rush in the third down rushing kind of went away the back end of my era. You know, Robert Mathis, who I think, is he a Hall of Famer? Is he headed towards Hall of Fame?
I think he is, actually.
Yeah, I think he either is or is headed that way. Robert Mathis came in my second year when I was with the Colts. And we all looked at him like, Robert Mathis is Jonah Ellis.
Yeah.
That weight you just said that you would like to have Jonah Ellis at, that's Max Crosby's weight. That's his
256.
Yep.
That's a really good weight, because you got but Max Crosby's, what is he? 6'5"?
6. Doesn't say there.
See if you can find that. I gotta imagine he's 6'5", 6'6", because he's a long, extended sucker.
Yeah, 6'5".
Yeah. He's Max Crosby's he's a beautiful edge rush body. So I think Jonah Ellis has got the goods, because he's got such quick hands. He's got a nose for the rush, but you know, you need to see good pro day numbers. He's got some work in front of him. I just want to see him. I wish I could see him back as a U one more year.
Yeah. All right, 106, Hans and Scotty. Josh Uduje is going to join us coming up at 1:30. We'll chat with him. Also, we'll recap the weekend. Again, a look back on the Jazz, a lot of college basketball, NFL Combine. Busy day. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty G. That's right. Yeah! On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans Olsen, Scott Gerard, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, Hans, let me ask you this. 3-game road trip in the books for the Utah Jazz. Okay, they're back at home. They're taking on the Wizards tonight, but they lose on the road to Atlanta, 124-97. They lose to Orlando, 115-107. They lose to Miami, 126-120. So, all that being said, we obviously are at a point where we really don't care about wins and losses anymore. You feel better about the growth and development of guys like Keyonte George after that road trip. After that game last night where he scores 100, or where 100, that'd be a record, where he ends up with 31 points, 6 of 14 from the three-point line, 12 of 23 overall, ends up with 4 rebounds, dishes out 4 assists, did turn it over 5 times in that game. Is that what we're looking for? Is that the takeaways? I mean, because I came away from that being like, all right, okay, we can work with that. That's good stuff. Because I'm already at a point where I don't care about the loss. That doesn't bother me. What I care about is the fact that I see guys develop and continue to get better and work hard and do all the little things. And you heard the Will Hardy cut earlier in the show about how he loved his aggressiveness. You got Taylor Hendricks out there starting another game. He only ends up with 8 points on 4 of 7 from the field, but he did pull down 13 rebounds. So, are we okay silver lining this? Are we comfortable silver lining this?
No. Well, no. I don't want to silver line it, but I do think that, I guess if we're just mentioning it in a positive light, that would be called silver lining it.
I just mean, like, can you come away from a loss, which is the 3 losses in a row, can you come away with it feeling better about your team? And do you feel, because I felt weird, because I've already got myself in a mindset where I don't care if this team wins or loses. I just want to see individual growth. So I'm watching that game, and I'm like, okay, we can work with that. We can work with that, Okay. Mission accomplished. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, they just lost. Why am I feeling good about that?
So as far as feeling good about the team, that I have 0 good feelings about the team. I've got a lot of negative feelings about the team. So
wait a minute, like as currently constituted or the long-term future of this team?
As currently constituted.
Okay, yeah, same.
Glad you separated that.
Yeah.
But as currently constituted, I just can't. I'm force-feeding myself Jazz basketball right now.
Yes. And maybe this is my coping mechanism for watching these games.
It probably is.
Yeah.
And that's fine because I can watch Keyonte George and I can feel encouraged. But I've also talked to a lot of really great NBA minds, and those minds are always cautious, saying, well, somebody has to take the shots. So be really careful because somebody has to take the shots. And a lot of times the NBA with these rookies, they aren't really paying attention to Keyonte George. They're paying attention to Lauri Markkanen, who was 5 of 15 for 25 points. He did go 4 of 9 from 3. He had a nice night on the outside, and he had a really nice night at the line. So I'm always a little bit cautious with rookies. But much like with Donovan Mitchell, there are points of athleticism, points of vision, points of like just smooth shot, good shot knowledge, good shot decisions that I'm like, I think I'm 80% sure on Keyonte George that he's going to be a really nice piece of the future.
Yeah.
With Taylor Hendricks, it's growing. I love his physicality, love his build.
It's okay not to be there yet with him.
Love his physicality, love his build. I love the 13 boards he pulled down. And when you watch those boards, those are physical boards. He gave you 4 offensive second opportunities. So he works at it really well, and there's parts of it that I like. I'm not past 50% with Taylor Hendricks as far as believing that he's going to be something great for the Jazz in the future.
Yeah, probably. And by great, I mean, solid piece, rotational piece. I'm probably 45% there, 40 to 45.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not ready to go 50.
But that's kind of where it stops for me. I like watching Sensabaugh. I'm glad that he's getting minutes. I'm glad that we have an opportunity to observe, and he does some nice things on the perimeter. I think that he's slow in looking for his shot, but he will take it if it comes his way. But that's kind of where it stops. But this team is maddening. I cannot watch another minute of Taylor Horton Tucker basketball.
Look, we're all thinking it. Let's just say it. Taylor Horton Tucker is probably one of the worst players in the NBA.
And should not be on the court at any moment for the Utah Jazz.
Fair enough. Yep.
I'd much rather see Chris Dunn pressed and really pushing him out there. Bryce Sensabaugh, get him out there, push him. I guess you're getting limited in bodies, but that's why you're looking at Keyonte George, who had 43 minutes.
Yeah.
But, man, I'm struggling with this team. It's like it's giving me a headache.
No, look, it's a bit of a chore. And that's why, again, you have to look at some of the silver linings on this team and look at other things to analyze and say, okay, let's focus in on this and focus in on that and see how the development is. I just don't want – I would frankly rather, Hans, go find some up-and-comer from the G League or some international guy.
I know right where you're going.
And not give minutes to Taylor Horton Tucker because you know what you're getting there.
Thank you. Yes.
Like, and look, I don't know what the rules are in terms of, maybe you passed a window to do that. I don't know. Like, whatever. You guys, I'm sure will blast me on Twitter. You can't do that anymore. Okay, fine, whatever. I would rather, look, we know what Taylor Horton-Tucker is. We just know, okay? He's not a good NBA player and will not be in the league much longer, whether it be with the Jazz or somebody else. Like, the sun is setting on the career of Taylor Horton-Tucker in the National Basketball Association, as it probably should. No offense, it just is.
Comes across as a great guy.
Sure, he's a wonderful person.
And a hustler.
Yeah. And he's gotten more out of less than anybody could possibly hope for.
You can tell he really wants it.
Yes.
It's just not there. It's these erratic movements in the lane that are like, I can't deal with that.
And so I would rather, if it was me and you're going all in on development, you're going all in on the future of the team, take a flyer on some dude and say, like, okay, let's give him minutes, or somebody else. And, like, let's see what else we can get out of that. Because is the result going to be any better or any worse?
Probably the same.
Not. Probably the same.
Probably very much
But at least
the same.
at least you're educating yourself a little bit on a potential of somebody, or how they react in certain situations, or how they handle themselves in certain matchups, or how they play with teammates. You know what you're getting out of Taylor Horton-Tucker.
The other thing I thought about when I was looking at this roster and the 3 moves that were made at the trade deadline, I do feel like they maxed out the timing of those players. I feel like they maxed out the timing on Kelly Olynyk and in that move. And I feel like they maxed out what they could get for those guys. So I don't want people to think that I'm upset with the trade deadline. No. Short-term hands, yeah, I wanted them to buy because I felt like they were on a nice run. I felt like they had some nice chemistry. I felt like they could possibly make a push to be in the play-in. But that's what it would have been. It would have been a play-in. You would have conveyed your pick. You'd have been in the play-in, and on you go. So there's a part of me that wanted to see that, just to see maybe out of interest, and wanting to see Keyonte George get playoff minutes.
Yep.
Even if it was a one and done
exactly.
in the play-in.
You want to see guys experience the physicality and the speed of postseason basketball, because it's not anywhere near what you see in the regular season.
Well, I think that's what was so helpful for Donovan Mitchell and his growth is he got a second-round playoff push in his first year.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really beneficial for him and his growth going first year to second year. But that just won't be the case because you sold. But I am happy with when the Jazz sold, because I do think the stock was as high as it was going to be at that point for the Jazz and for those guys.
And that's exactly what you needed to do. You had an opportunity there. All right, let's go pick up some more assets and let's go do our thing. So yeah, it makes sense. And again, you got to walk a line here, because these things are not mutually exclusive. And we keep saying this over and over. You can be, as a Jazz fan, not pleased and not overly enthused to watch every Jazz game because they're not particularly fun to watch right now.
Yeah.
And then also understand that there's a reason why you did it, and the reason was sound and solid and educated and is good for the long-term future of your team. Like, both of these things can be true. We can sit here and talk about how it's our job to watch Jazz games and it's our job to break them down. It's not something that we're particularly enjoying doing right now.
Yeah, it's becoming more of a job, yeah.
And also that it was the smart thing to do. Like, you're right, Olynyk, you maxed out the opportunity there to get as much as you possibly could out of him.
And I don't think there's any doubt Fontecchio was in the same situation.
Yeah, like that dude, and God bless Fontecchio and the staff that developed him. The stock is never going to be higher for him than it was at trade deadline.
But if you would have told me, Scotty, that sitting 9 games out of the deadline, the Jazz would be 1-8 because they moved Fontecchio, Olynyk, and Agbaji, I'd have been like, "What are you talking about, man?" Yeah, what are you talking about? 1-8? No. Markkanen and Collins are going to carry you to more than 1-8. No. Keyonte George and Colin Sexton are going to carry you to more than 1-8. Really, how much was Kelly Olynyk giving you? Now, Fontecchio was giving you some nice defense. Olynyk was giving you a few minutes off the bench. Agbaji was probably the least of the 3 out of interest and role playing, even though there were a couple of games where you saw sparks. I would have told you no. 1-8, no. This This team went on a really nice streak in December and January, and they'll be able to come out of the trade deadline at maybe just below 500 basketball. That's what I would have told you.
Yeah. Agreed.
But we're watching them spiral. Tonight, they're going to beat the Wizards. They're going to beat Kyle Kuzma.
I don't know. I said that last week against Atlanta, too.
This Wizards team I think they claimed the worst spot in the NBA, I think.
No, I think, hold on. I think Detroit's worse. Yeah. Oh, no, they're tied. Washington and Detroit, both 9-51 on the season.
All right. So the Wizards are, when you say bad, it's like take another step down, and then it's bad.
And you got, what's the line from Moneyball? You got 8 miles of bleep, and then you have the Washington Wizards.
And then you got the Washington Wizards. It's bad. So I fully expect the Jazz to come out of this game with a win. If they don't, it's just further spiral. But I am not getting caught up in this anymore. I know what the end goal is, and this team, this roster, it's not the end goal. This is something that you're going to wad up and throw in a basket and say, all right, let's start new and get going.
Well, and it's funny,
what's
too.
best to take from this and move on.
Because I'm sure that the Jazz will make some moves in the offseason, and draft day is going to be fantastic. There's going to be a lot of fun. And free agency. And
you said draft day?
Draft day.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Because I think there'll be some fireworks with this team. But then you present it to Will Hardy, and if I'm Will Hardy, I'm like, okay, can you at least give me a year with the team before you blow it up halfway through again, please? Can I just work with a continuous roster for an entire NBA season? Because the Jazz have really put Will Hardy by the eight ball. And look, there's no, like, Will Hardy.
Trade deadlines have been.
Will Hardy's in no threat whatsoever of being fired. But if I'm Will, I'm like, can you just let me work with the team for a full season and not just dismantle it after 4 months after I get him going? That would be nice.
Yeah.
All right, 125. Josh Uduje is going to join us next from Utah State basketball. Another set of big wins for Utah State last week. The final week of the regular season coming up for the Aggies, the Cougars, the Utes before conference tournament next week, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
RSL head coach Pablo Mastroni.
For you, as you have messages to deliver to the team, is it more effective to use profanity to the team in English or Spanish?
The Spanish guys say I use a lot of profanity. Spanish was my first language. We moved to the States when I was 4. I grew up in a family of butchers, and we owned a butcher shop in Argentina, and it was all the guys working in the butcher shop. So I learned all the bad words, and I would always say it. The guys would laugh, and all the women in the family would always be like, this is ridiculous. It's so funny because I rarely use profanity in English, and the only time I ever use it is to really make a point of emphasis. But in Spanish, apparently, I use it all the time without even knowing, because that's the way I was raised.
I bleep and love it.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10. Presented by Murdoch Hyundai, Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer for 16 years in a row. On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Looking for the latest on the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, and Aggies? Yeah, we've got you covered. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Utah State about to embark on the final week of the regular season. A game on Wednesday against San Jose State, and then on Saturday, big one against New Mexico. Hans, doing the play-by-play and traveling with this team, you're not supposed to have favorites.
Yeah.
This dude's one of my favorites.
Is he?
Yeah. Josh Uduje, kind enough to join us. Josh, how you doing, man?
What's up, Josh?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
You must be something special because Scotty doesn't have favorites.
No, Josh.
He's making me blush, man. He doesn't really mean it. He's just being nice.
Hey, I've always wondered, for me, I travel around with you guys, and obviously physically I'm not going through what you're going through, but it's a bit of a grind, a long season. And I go back and I look at some of the games earlier in the year, like Cayman Islands or, in the start of the season, and it feels like it was like 3 years ago. For a player, how does it feel like it goes by slowly, or does it feel like it's over very quickly? What's it like from your perspective?
Oh, no, it feels like it goes by super fast. I mean, I'm in my third year of college basketball, and each year just gets faster and faster. You know, it just goes by. I mean, I remember telling the freshmen at the start of the year, like, man, you think this is a long season. Wait till we get through conference. Wait till we start conference. Like, before you know it, the end of the year will be done. And, you know, just being with the guys and playing with them, it's been amazing. So, you know, we've grown so much as a team. And, you know, the Caymans, which was in, what was it, November?
Yeah.
It feels like a lifetime ago, honestly.
So, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were close to Myrtle Beach about this time last year with Coastal Carolina. Is that kind of in the right area? And what's it like? You know, you go from beach weather to Logan, Utah. How you dealing with the climate?
Yeah, you're 100% right. We was in Conway, so it was literally like 15 minutes from Myrtle Beach. It's an adjustment, I have to say. I'm extremely cold right now. And spending those 2 years there, it never really got too cold. And I think school got cancelled one day because they said that there was going to be an ice storm, and it was literally just sleet. There was like less than half an inch of snow. It wasn't. It was literally a minor inconvenience, and they closed school. In comparison to this, where, you know, we might get 4 inches of snow, and I'm hoping that I get an email from my teacher saying class is cancelled, and, you know, everybody's there.
Yeah, that's you're hard pressed to find two differing climates than Myrtle Beach and Logan, Utah. That's for sure. You've been in the starting lineup the last two games. Coach mentioned it's a little bit more matchup based, but does that change your mindset as a player, going from one of the first guys off the bench to being a starter, or do you kind of address the game the same way regardless of whatever your playing time looks like, or at least how it looks like to start the game?
Yeah, I mean, my approach remains the same. You know, just trying to help the team in whatever fashion I can. And my role in the team, you know, remains the same whether I'm coming off the bench or I'm starting. It was definitely matchup based. You know, with the last two teams we played have been much smaller, and I was aware of that, you know, coming into those games. But yeah, my team do a great job of putting me in situations that enable me to be successful. And then on the defensive end, my role doesn't change, whether I'm first off the bench, second off the bench, or even starting.
You know, Josh, we've had an opportunity to interview a few other Utah State Aggies on this team, and we've had a lot of fun. And, you know, it comes across to me that you guys are having a blast. And I watched a video. I think it's you, and I want to say it was Darius Brown, and Coach Sprinkle was doing a this one or that one kind of scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even watching that, you guys are laughing, and Coach Sprinkle's laughing. And how long? First of all, is this the best chemistry you've had on a team? And how long did it kind of take to fall into this chemistry?
Yeah, no, I would say definitely in my this being my third year, this has been by far the most I've gelled with a group of guys. And I think part of it has to be from the fact that, like, everybody on this team started off at ground zero together, not knowing anything, not knowing what to expect. And that helped build the chemistry, because we was all in it together. We was all learning as we was going. And I think, you know, it's a great sign when everybody on the team really enjoys each other's company. And then Coach Sprinkle, he's amazing. Obviously, when we step on the floor, he's a different guy than when he is off court. But I feel like that helped us to understand, you know, we don't have any friends on the basketball court. You know, whether you played with a guy or not prior to Utah State, if they haven't got a Utah State jersey on, you know, they're our enemy for those 40 minutes. And I feel like that's why we've been so successful so far.
How hard is it to play a team, especially from a defensive standpoint, like Air Force? I know their record isn't great, but that's got to be a miserable system to go up against defensively, is it not?
Literally, at the end of that last game, I was like, I'm glad we don't have to play Air Force again, because the way they play is so, you know, they're going to run the clock. They run loads of back screens and different type of actions that you have to be prepared for. Even though their record might suggest that they're a really hard team to guard, we've seen that they've had some incredible wins, and that's just been because of, lack of preparation from the team that's playing them. I remember watching the New Mexico game, and they was up 1 point against New Mexico, and I told Great, we had practice just that day, and I told Great, New Mexico are going to lose, because if you can't guard Air Force at the start of the game, they're not the team that you just amp up the aggressiveness and suddenly learn how to guard them. You have to know their actions and be prepared from the get-go. So, it was a tough one, but, we came out with the win, and the guys, bodied together to put in a good 40 minutes.
Hands, Air Force has this player. He's a really good player, a sophomore named Ritas Petritis. And, I've watched him play last year. He did a lot of great things as a freshman, really good player this year. And you were up at that Boise State game. He airballed a 3, and the crowd got after him. And then it just continued on in the second half to the point where you could tell the crowd really got under his skin. And I haven't seen a player react that visibly to the crowd getting after him, and pretty much just altered he had a couple of good looks for threes, and he would pull it, pump fake, and try to drive and get into a worse shot because you could tell he did not want to take that outside shot anymore.
Didn't want to pull the trigger, huh?
Josh, you don't need to talk about him specifically, but what is that like as a player when you know that not only are you 5 out on the court playing well, but you've got that crowd behind you, which is making a huge impact on the game?
Yeah, it's amazing. The Mountain West is known for having incredible crowds, and I think we're up there with the best in the country. Honestly, the herd is amazing, and that is a testament to them. The fact that they're able to be so present in the game that they can get under a player's skin and make him start questioning his game. We're all Division I basketball players, so we're on the court for a reason. So if the crowd can get under your skin and make you question your basketball ability or even, taking shots that you can make, it does the home team, a good service and the away team a disservice. So, we're really lucky to have such an incredible crowd.
When you are in the locker room or you're in a practice or you're in a pinch in a game, Josh, who is it that's kind of the vocal leader of this team? Who's the guy that says something, gets real loud, maybe angry and aggressive? Who would you say is the vocal leader?
I don't think we have anybody that's maybe aggressive or anything like that. But we've got a great point guard in Darius Brown who's really experienced and knows the game, and him and Sprinkle are somewhat interconnected. They are on the same page at all times. So, the team looks to Darius as someone who's knowledgeable about the game and he's able to control the game from that standpoint. Great does a great job of being super vocal. He's a loud character anyway. Anybody that knows him knows that he's someone who who likes talking. So, and that does. It's incredible for us as a team to have somebody like that who's so impactful on the floor and also great at communicating, uplifting his teammates. Many a times when I'm not feeling up for it, Great will add me up and make sure I'm on my A game. And you need players like that on the team. And I feel like he's contributed to our success greatly. And I do think it helps him being, the player of the conference.
So Great took a nasty spill in that game against Air Force, and his head took the brunt of it as he fell. And the dude was bleeding. I think he got some stitches. How's that dome of his looking? You guys giving him some grief for that shiner on his forehead now?
Yeah, he's got a big head anyway, so it just made his head slightly bigger. But he's doing okay. Yeah, he's fine. He's a warrior. He's been practicing perfectly fine, so he's going to get the stitches out after the San Jose game. So he might be wearing a headband. Hopefully that, makes him look a little bit more attractive. Who knows?
So, Josh, I know you're from London, and I have always wanted to visit London. I wanted to ask you 2 questions. Have you Have you been to the London Roman Wall?
The London Roman Wall?
Yeah, built in 190.
No.
It was built in 190. And, it's, 190 AD. And, like, we have things here in this country that's like 1700. Like, you the furthest back you can visit is like, oh, yeah, that was here in 17 something. I mean, you could go a little bit further, but it's not much. But because I was trying to put together a trip, and I wanted to go see the London Roman Wall, and then I wanted to go see the monument at the Battle of Barnet. The history in London is just ridiculous. What kind of things can you kind of give us of growing up in London and what it was like, and some of your favorite things?
Yeah, I've never been to the London Roman Wall, but yeah, so I went to my secondary school, or as you guys call it, high school here. It has like a long history, and the founder of the school was the Archbishop of Canterbury in the early 1500s. So the actual school itself, there were monuments and statues that he had built, and that were still renovated and stuff like that, but were structures that were around in the 1500s, which is insane to think that like America wasn't even established yet.
Yeah.
And like, just things like that, the great history in England, in history classes, we learn about the Tudors and all of that sort of thing. So, yeah, there's great history in London. And I would say that it would be great for you to visit, England and get to experience that if that's something you're interested in.
Your best meal in the United States versus the best meal you had in London, is the U.S. food better than England? Or is England food, if you could pick like your favorite meal in the United States and your favorite meal in London, does that favorite meal in England top what you've had here in the United States?
That is a very, very good question. So my parents, heritage-wise, my mom's Jamaican and my dad's Nigerian. And one thing about London is it's really, culturally rich. Like there's loads of different, it's a cultural melting pot. A lot of, Jamaicans and Nigerians and people from all over, come to congregate in England and London. So I would have to say like my mom's home cooked food would be my favorite English meal, if you could count that.
Sure. Smart answer too. You don't want to make mom mad.
But a full English breakfast is one of my favorites. And I'm not going to lie, no American food is topping that. The toast and the baked beans, the eggs. Oh, yeah, you can't beat that. I'm sorry.
It's a blood sausage.
You guys got to try it one time.
Well, the thing that, because I went over there, my wife and I had an anniversary, and, when you hear the word pudding, you're thinking, oh, pudding's great, in the United States, And then, so I had this thing called black pudding. That was not what I expected that to be.
Okay. One thing's for sure, two things for certain. Do not order black pudding.
Yeah, I found that out. Yeah.
It's not what it's not what it sounds like, at least. I made the mistake once when I was younger. I've not gone and revisited it since.
Man, I want to go so bad. They've got this Highgate Cemetery in London that some of the burials there, some of the historical figures, and I love history. And I wasn't into history when I was playing in college, but because I was only into myself. But man, when you get a little bit older and you start researching some of those things, you grew up in an incredible place. So do you follow? Like, did you, go through do you kind of follow the hierarchy and everything that's going on with the kings and queens? And do you get into all the drama of, leaving it and coming to America and all the mess that's going on, the coronation? I was into the coronation.
Yeah. So I would say, contrary to what I think most Americans would assume, we're not too, for the most part, I would say the general folk aren't too invested in the monarchy as much as one might assume. But like history classes, we all had to learn about all of the old kings, Queen Victoria, Henry VIII, like all of those people. We learn about all of the crazy battles. in Hastings in 1066, those sorts of things. We learn all about the British history. But when it comes to keeping up with like the updated monarchy and like all of the scandals with, is it Edward? Edward?
Or is it George? Which one came over to America?
It's
it's Harry. Harry's the one that came over here.
Harry's the one that came over, exactly. Yeah. Prince Charles is it's King Charles now, I guess. But yeah, we don't keep up too much of it. The one good thing though about the Queen was that she was breaking records every year, so we would get an extra bank holiday every year for like a jubilee or something like that, which was good. Everybody loved that.
Yeah, I bet.
For Queen Elizabeth, huh?
Yeah, because I mean, she outlived. She's
incredible.
There are a lot of miles there for sure.
She is incredible.
Well, and Josh is because I do not have a soccer team. Josh told me that Tottenham is now my soccer team, so that's who we're rooting for going forward. So there we go.
My guy right there.
Well, Josh, you're the man.
Right, he told me he's a Spurs supporter. He's my favorite guy in America up to date right now.
Let's go. Right on, man. Hey, you're the best. Appreciate it. Good luck. I'll see you in San Jose, and let's keep it rolling. Can't wait for that tournament next week in Vegas as well. You're the best.
Keep it up, Josh.
Thank you very much. Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys, and have a good afternoon.
There he is, Josh Uduje. Told you he's one of my favorites. You can tell why pretty quick.
I just want to go to London, Scotty.
I wish I could have spent way more time there.
You know, the only really regrets that I've got from school, probably just the combined, going junior high, high school, and college. But the biggest regret I think I've got through all of it is not paying more attention in history classes. But there were things that they got into in history classes like, man, that's not real interesting. But there's so much rich history in London, and I went through a few of them. The Highgate Cemetery, I want to go there so bad.
Yeah.
The people that are buried there, the years that you go back to in burials, and the burial formations are incredible. It would be the closest thing that you could find to it would be in New Orleans, in some of those New Orleans cemeteries. But I talked about the Battle of Barnet, 11,000 people dead like that in a battle in Barnet, which is in the 1400s or something. And I know that's got a monument in England, in London somewhere. Like, those are the things I'd love to go see.
Yeah. I was bummed out that we weren't able to spend a lot of time there. We did the cruise thing, and we had like a day. You need like 2 weeks.
2 weeks at minimum.
Easily, yeah.
He's great.
Yeah, he's a fun conversation.
What a fun conversation with Josh.
Yeah. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coming up next, another edition of Whole World News, and then we'll talk a little NFL Combine coming up at 2:05 right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Longtime BYU assistant coach, now my co-host for Jazz Pre-Half and Post, the one and only Coach Tim Lacombe. I think that win at Kansas alone might be good enough for one, maybe two bumps in the seeding department for BYU going into the NCAA tournament. How much of an advantage is it going to be for the Cougs to secure a nice one?
It's massive. This team is poised for a run, and I just think there's mental toughness. I think the coaching there that's going on is outstanding. I think this is one of the best seasons ever of BYU basketball. When you take into account where they were picked, the uphill climb that is the Big 12, and everybody from the outside looking in, and I mean everybody, nobody had any belief in this team. And all they've done is what they've done. It's really impressive. So I think this team could make a nice deep run.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Span the globe for the hard-hitting news you care about. Well, not really. But hey, at least we found it interesting. This is Whole World News on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
We've got the whole world in our hands.
You got the whole world in our hands.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hope you're all having a tremendous Monday, excuse me. Not quite there yet. Hey, Hans, let's go to Ireland. There is a woman named Camilla Grabska. She's 36 years old, and they have a competition. A lot of these, European cities have these weird little competitions. Mm-hmm. Well, at the end of Christmas, they have a post-holiday competition where they all get their Christmas trees out of their house, and they have a Christmas tree tossing contest where essentially there's a men's, there's a women's, there's a kid division where you pick up your Christmas tree and you throw it as far as you can, and then they determine a winner. Well, Camilla won the women's division. So congratulations out to her. That's awesome. The only problem is that everybody was there with cell phones. Everybody was there watching it, and there were a lot of videos and a lot of publicity from this. Well, she was in the middle of a injury lawsuit from a car crash a few months earlier, where she was suing another person's insurance company for $800,000 because of pain and suffering and debilitating injury. Camilla, I know you wanted to be competing, but now this lawsuit's been thrown out because they've seen the video of her tossing a Christmas tree and winning this competition and looking very healthy while doing all of that.
Now you're out on $800,000.
Yep. Which she, probably wasn't going to get the $800,000, but probably going to settle and get a little bit of it.
I always love when these scammers get caught. I love it. Because when you cheat the system, you're really cheating all of us. And I know this is in Ireland, but you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
When you cheat the system, you're cheating everybody.
Yep. And look, I have no love for insurance companies, but, you can't be committing insurance fraud.
No, it's not good.
The judge who threw out the lawsuit says, in this video, that is a very large natural Christmas tree, and it is being thrown by her in a very agile movement. I'm afraid I cannot but conclude that the claims have been exceedingly exaggerated. On that basis, I dismiss this claim.
Good for them. Sometimes people, don't make a ton of sense. Is it the same weighted tree that everybody throws? Or you bring your own tree?
You know what? I need to do a little bit of research on that. I do not know. But apparently the tree she brought to the table was I would imagine there's got to be a level of.
It's got to be a
standard
tree.
Yeah. Can't have somebody out there grabbing a 3-foot tree and hurling it across.
Well, chucking pine trees doesn't sound fun to me.
No.
Just trying to get my tree in the house every year is.
Do you do real or fake?
Fake. Real.
Oh, really?
Yeah, real.
Oh, I'm all about the fake.
Yeah, real. I would probably do fake, but I love a real Christmas tree and
regular Clark Griswold.
I know.
And you know how my neighbor spoils me.
Well, plus you got the 60 acres in the back, so you got plenty of trees.
You're growing your own trees, aren't you?
No. But my neighbor has access to the better part of Schofield.
Oh, okay. Hey, 1 in 10 kids in Utah face hunger, but you can feed Utah by leaving a bag of non-perishable food items on your doorstep by 9 a.m. on Saturday, March 16th. Help Utah Food Bank, Macy's Grocery, and Lynn's fight hunger statewide. Learn more at utahfoodbank.org/feedutah. All right, we'll talk a little NFL Combine next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Where it began, I can't begin to knowing, but then I know it's growing.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Happy Monday, everybody. NFL Combine, all kinds of interesting numbers, storylines coming out of that. And to help break it down, Tony Pauline, kind enough to join us, consulting editor and NFL draft analyst at sportskita.com. That's KEEDA.com, sportskita.com. Tony, how you doing, man?
Hey, Tony.
I'm okay. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about, obviously, a lot of big storylines coming out of the NFL Combine. And the one that I think that everybody took notice of, when some dude goes out there and runs a 4.21, everybody pays attention to that really quickly. Xavier Worthy steals the show. How much of that individual run can help him or move him up a draft board?
Well, I mean, he broke John Ross's record of 4.22, and when you look at it, Ross ran that time and became, I think he ended up with the 10th pick of round 1. Now, Worthy is a much more polished receiver at equal points in their career than John Ross. So I think what it's done is it basically cemented Worthy as a first-round pick. I don't know that he's going to go top 15. But, you look at the teams in the bottom part of round one that need a speed receiver. I mean, the first runner off the board after your top three, the top three being Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze, it's going to be Xavier Worthy. Whether he goes before Brian Thomas of LSU or not remains to be seen, because Thomas, as a bigger receiver, ran a good time. But I think it definitely cemented him as a first-round pick.
I'm just curious how you felt about the way Caleb Williams handled the combine, not going into the medical areas of it and not really participating, but being at least there, being at least present, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of take me through how he handled it and what you think the effects of how he handled it might be.
Well, I mean, it's not the way I would have recommended he did it. But the fact is, this is the trend that we've seen at the Combine. I mean, we've seen Kyler Murray and people like that. Bryce Young didn't even get on the scale last year. So we've seen little by little, players, rather than just go there and do everything, take control. Now, it's not the way that I would recommend it. But the fact is, if he's not the first pick of the draft, which is about a 99% chance right now, he will be the second pick of the draft. So he basically holds the cards. He says, he's going to do the medicals with one team, which is kind of ironic. Whether that one team, the Chicago Bears, chooses to share the medical reports with the two teams below him, Washington and New England, remains to be seen. I mean, it's the way things are gone from the player point of view. I don't agree with it, but I understand it.
So you feel like it's a all but a done deal, 99% sure Bears draft him, and then does that mean Justin? And I know this is getting out of the draft per se a little bit, but then Chicago probably picks up some picks for Justin Fields?
I felt that way for the past 2 months. I mean, Justin Fields has never lived up to expectations. He's shown flashes. I mean, the specter of passing up on a Caleb Williams in favor of keeping Justin Fields, and then Caleb Williams becomes a good starting quarterback in the NFL, if not a star quarterback in the NFL, you never live that down. So I felt that it wasn't a change of heart this weekend, or this last week, I should say, that I had.
Yeah.
It's something that I felt all along.
What's the market for Justin Fields out there in terms of compensation?
I think it's going to be maybe a third-round pick and then a conditional pick in the future, depending on how he plays. I don't think it's going to be all that. It's not going to be a first-round pick, that's for sure. But I think it'll be in the third-round area with a conditional future pick, depending on his production.
So we had some local individuals that were involved in the draft, and the one that we've spent the most time talking about was Keaton Slovis in his 4.55, leading all quarterbacks at the Combine. I've also had some people tell me that he threw exceptionally well. So give us your thoughts on Keaton Slovis, who didn't overly impress us here in the state of Utah as BYU starting quarterback, but has done some really good things in the Combine.
Oh, he didn't overly impress me at the Combine either, or Shrine Bowl practices, which I was at. Yeah, I mean, he ran a 4.55. Hip, hip, hooray. Are you going to move him to tight end or, running back? I mean, it's important, but it's not overly important. Everyone knew he's a good athlete with a NFL arm, but some of those shorter throws are all over the place, and that's what Keaton Slovis is. I mean, he's a guy who can make all the passes, but a lot of times you don't know where the ball is going to end up. And I think we saw a bit of that at the Combine. The throwing workout was okay. It wasn't, say, a Michael Penix type, who I thought had an exceptional workout. I don't know that it really helped him all that much. There's a lot going on there with Keaton Slovis. I mean, he played, 3 universities, never really settled down, and he's never really improved from early on in his USC career when people thought that he was going to be a big-time NFL prospect.
So I want to circle back on Michael Penix. Obviously, we cover University of Utah. We've seen a lot of Washington throughout the years. You mentioned that he had a great Combine. That seems to be the common thread with him. How much did he improve his stock, and does he get into that conversation of the third or fourth quarterback taken?
won't be in the conversation for the third quarterback. That's not going to happen. Fourth, I still think it's going to be J.J. McCarthy. I mean, the combine workout is important, but it's not the end-all or be-all. What it's going to do, it'll more affirm in people's minds if they're going to take him in the top 15 rather than a guy jumping into the top 15. So if there's a team who say, listen, we're going to take Michael Penix late in round 1 coming into the combine, the past workout that he had on Saturday affirmed that. No one, I think, is going to, improve Michael Penix's stock a full round based on the workout, as good as it was. There's a lot more questions with Michael Penix. He's a little bit overage at 24 years old. He's had a lot of debilitating injuries in the past. There has been questions about his work ethic in the past, especially at Indiana University. So there's a lot there. The combine workout was good. He should be given credit for that, as he should his senior season. But I don't think anyone is going to take Michael Penix from maybe the 6th quarterback to the 3rd quarterback. I do think that he proved he's a better pro prospect than, say, Bo Nix, who did not throw well at the combine. And he deserves to be credited. But again, the combine is just a piece. It's not the end-all or be-all.
Do you think as a offensive lineman going into the combine, if you're not kind of projected one of those top 3 offensive tackles that could be a first round and big time easy pick, but you're just an offensive lineman, you're in there trying to make it, can the combine hurt you or help you more?
It can do either or. I mean, if you go there and you put up some really bad testing numbers and you prove yourself not to be a good athlete, that's going to hurt you because it means that you're not going to have much upside in your game. But if you don't go there and you blow the roof off from the testing point of view and show that you're a good athlete, even if you weren't a good player, teams will look at it like, well, this guy's got great upside, and we're just going to he's 6'5", 310 pounds. You look at these testing numbers, we're going to coach him to be a good football player. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't work, but that's what these guys are paid for, who are in the stands watching. They're paid to coach these guys to be good football players. It can work both ways.
Because I asked the question because there's an offensive lineman I really respect out of University of Utah, one of my favorite I've watched and covered over the years, in Keaton Bills. And he went out there and ran a 5.3, 8.40 and only 24 reps on 225. And I look at him as an offensive lineman, and he's way better than he is. These numbers might reflect it. And I just wonder, does that specifically, really hurt his stock and potential to be drafted?
The one thing you have to realize about the combine is a game of perception. So if you go there and people are expecting that you're a slow power gap type of blocker and you're not going to run super fast, they expect you to run in the 4.3s and 5.3s, and you run a 5.3. That is what it is. If they expect you to run a 5.05 and you run a 4.3, that's going to hurt you. As far as Bills is concerned, I go back to he's a bit of a limited athlete. He is a very good power gap lineman. I mean, he is a guy who will mash you on running downs. He's not bad he's good in pass protection. So I think all along you were looking at potentially a late-round pick. I still think he's going to be a late-round pick. And at his position, offensive guard, you can get a good player. A guy has a long NFL career, in the later rounds at offensive guard. It's not only about the first, second, and third round. You can get good guys later on at certain positions, offensive guard being one of them.
You anticipate Kingsley Suamataia will be a first-round pick?
I thought so at the Senior Bowl. I think he affirmed that with his performance at the Combine. I thought it was terrific. He looked very athletic. He looked fluid during drills. Here's a guy that was competent at both right and left tackle. Here's a guy who, based on his age, based on his testing numbers and the athleticism you showed, he is one of those players, those prospects that have a high upside. So he is someone who is very likely, if coached correctly, he puts in the work, is going to be a much better player 2 or 3 years down the road. And he plays the all-important offensive tackle position. Everyone loves the quarterbacks, talks about the quarterbacks. We started this conversation on the quarterbacks. if you can't protect the quarterback, your quarterback's going to fail. And Kingsley, and I'm not even trying to say his last name because I destroy it every time. Love him as a player. I think he's got a high upside. I think he's also improved, and he showed everyone at the Combine that he's got much more room for improvement. So I absolutely think he has cemented himself as a first-round pick. The way things are shaping up, there's no way I see him getting past the Kansas City Chiefs. When you look at their situation offensive tackle, I do think he could go earlier than that.
So, Tony, we watched a real solid evolution of these incredibly durable and versatile tight ends, the Kittles and the Kelseys and the Ingrams and Hawkinsons. And you go down on the list, Laporta, who we kind of saw really advance kind of in the postseason and do some big things. It is a specific build, and it is a specific type of play that's very tough to defend against. Are there many of those types of athletes in this draft for a team to potentially pick up and find their Kittle or Kelsey?
This is not a good tight end class, but you do have, let's put Brock Bowers aside for a second because he's going to be a very early pick. I thought Jatavian Sanders of Texas is that type of tight end. Ben Sinnott of Kansas State is potentially that type of tight end. I think Devin Culp, even though he's a little bit smaller, showed a lot of good things. And, you look at I mentioned the Kansas City Chiefs, the San Francisco 49ers, you mentioned their tight end, Kittle. You look at the Miami Dolphins, they're always looking for that type of playmaking tight end. I think I don't think it's deep at that sort of position this year's draft. I do think you have a couple of those types of players that will be available. One of the more interesting ones is Johnny Wilson of Florida State. I mean, the guy's 6'6", 236 pounds, probably going to get bigger before he gets smaller over time. And he was a receiver for Florida State. I think he could be a real good tight end in time, a move type of tight end as he gets bigger and as he learns to block.
Tony Pauline joining us, consulting editor and NFL draft analyst at sportskita.com. Sione Vaki obviously had such a fun year last year for the University of Utah, playing on both sides of the ball. Obviously, he's not going to be a two-way player in the NFL, but does that versatility help him in the minds of NFL scouts when they're evaluating his talent and skill set?
I mean, versatility is key for any prospect. The ability to, whether it's your safety, and I think he also, he took some. I remember watching him on Friday. He also took some reps as a running back, so he did a little bit of that. The ability to do everything and anything besides being one-dimensional is going to help him. I think with Vaki, it's going to come down to special teams at the next level. Whether he's used on the defensive side of the ball, whether he's used as a situational ball carrier, a pass catcher out of the backfield, if he can do that. I think for someone like that, being able to play on special teams, specifically coverage units, will be the make or break sort of whether or not he has a career in the NFL.
Scotty and I kind of feel like outside of Kingsley Suamataia, Cole Bishop probably comes the second off the board out of the state of Utah. Utah safety, ran a 4.45 540 and did some good things. What's the word and buzz about Cole Bishop?
Decent size, good athlete, also had a 39-inch vertical jump. Kind of struggled during the position drills. The question is, is he a true free safety, rangy type of safety, or is he more of a strong safety, which is a position that almost doesn't exist anymore in the NFL? But you're looking at a good athlete who can do several different things well. And again, I think somebody like that, the special teams aspect is going to be important, although Utah has put a lot of good safeties in the league in the past, and I think there's something to be said for that.
Is there I'm trying to think the right way to a bias towards Utah when you have a pipeline of athletes that have gone to the league and have had some success? Does that player, even though, maybe if they're neck and neck with another player in a draft room, does he get a little bit of an edge just based on the system and the success that other players from that university have had?
I don't know if he gets an edge, but it's part of the conversation. I mean, a lot of it depends on the system that team who is called to the clock is running and whether the player fits that system and the coaches. But, it's something that's got to be considered throughout the scouting process.
Well, we certainly appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us. Great insight, and look forward to catching up again here soon.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks for having me.
Good stuff. Good breakdown.
Yeah.
Always like it when guys can expand out of the first round and know all the prospects. Tony Pauline, again, consulting editor and NFL draft analyst for sportskita.com.
Well, I think we can pretty much surmise that he has shut down the Keaton Slovis idea.
Yeah.
Is that the feeling you guys got?
Yeah, I think, I think we can come back down to earth on Keaton Slovis a little bit.
According to Tony, it was the 4.55?
Yeah.
Was not the lasting impression of people leaving the combine kind of feel?
Yeah.
Is that what you got from that?
That's the vibe I got. You ready for a little Broncos breaking news here, Lloyd?
Only if it's bad.
Well, no, because it's your next quarterback for the Raiders. The Broncos have informed Russell Wilson he is being released after the league year begins on March 13th. Sean Payton said, "We spoke with Russell today to inform him of his release after the start of the league year. On behalf of the Broncos, we thank Russell for his contributions and dedication to our team and community while wishing him the best as he continues to career. The door cannot hit him in the butt fast enough as he leaves our..." No, that part wasn't in there. We told him to take Jake Heaps and GTFO. I'm not sure what that means. As we move forward, we are focused on building the strongest team possible for the 2024 season. We are excited to improve this offseason. We'll have the flexibility. You got no flexibility. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they've burnt a lot.
That cap number, you got nothing.
And we are not very happy that he aired the dirty laundry about his contract to everybody.
Yeah.
We're not happy about that. It made us look really bad.
Yeah, that didn't sit well.
Why are you thinking? You think he's going to be in Vegas? Huh?
I don't know. I'm just hoping. I just hope and pray that you, Hans, the diehard Raiders fan.
But could you imagine if something like that did happen? And I think his career's behind him. I think he's done. But somehow he comes and wins a Super Bowl.
Well,
that'd be amazing.
Well, I know that there's been high-level moves with big expectations that are massive letdowns in the NFL, but have you seen one that big? Because when the Broncos got Russell Wilson, every Broncos fan I know was out of their minds.
We were doing, we pulled into a remote at RGS, and of course I'm losing my mind because I'm like, finally, the quarterback situation's been fixed. Finally, they bring in a decent quarterback. And we spend the entire show talking about what that means for that team and how much they're going to be better because of it. And 2 years later, they are in a worse financial situation. They still haven't been to the playoffs. And I don't see them getting out of salary cap hell for at least 2 years based on that move. Honestly, I can't really think of anything that's gone much worse. The Herschel Walker trade, maybe. I don't know.
That's the only thing that's close is probably that Herschel. But
because the amount that was given.
Yes. And the fact that they gave him that big fat extension before he ever played a down for the team.
Well, it's just crazy how that all went down to how Coach Hackett and everything went down with allowing him to have his own personal assistants and coaches and building out rooms inside the Broncos facilities. No wonder there was so much headbutting when Peyton came in because he was trying to get things corrected, getting pushback, but trying to say this is how it's going to be while I'm here. You knew things were going to get ugly, and I think it presented itself. Russell Wilson got better.
Yeah.
Under Peyton than he was under Hackett, right?
Oh, yeah. Much better. Much better. I mean, honestly, you look at the stats, it wasn't awful last year for Russell Wilson. I mean, it was light years better than it was before, but it's just, it is what it is. He's not getting any better. He's getting old, and he carries too high of a cap number, and so you just got to bite the bullet, rip the Band-Aid off, and move on.
Did Sean Payton, do you think he lived up to what you expected I mean, it wasn't a good season.
Well,
but it seemed like he was a little bit off on his game too.
I agree with that, but also you look at the improvement that Russell Wilson made from 2 years ago to last year. It was a vast improvement, but still just not good enough. So yeah, you're right. But I think that I'd rather have Sean Payton there than Russell Wilson. That's for sure. In terms of if you can only keep one.
As long as you got your savior, Sean Payton, that's all that matters.
Okay.
It's all that matters. You don't need players. Coaches win championships.
Yeah. Well, we're going to put that to the test because they can't afford anybody. Janine Garofalo may need to come in and play quarterback.
Hey, he's going to have to serve a suspension, but you could get him by game 3.
Is it 2-game suspension?
I think it's a 2-game suspension, yeah.
Sheesh.
So,
if you're going to take performance-enhancing drugs, shouldn't your performance be enhanced?
Yes.
Well, that's typically the mode operandi. That's
literally in the name.
It's kind of in the name of the procedure.
It's what you're kind of hoping for. Like, hey, you know what? If you're going to take these and risk your career and your reputation, shouldn't you be good?
It's not exactly performance reducing.
It's like, Barry Bonds didn't go out there and hit 200.
Okay, we don't need to do that. Don't need to bring Barry into this. Why has Barry got to take strays from Janine?
Well,
I'm
why.
just saying.
No, I don't
Stop
know.
defending him.
Nobody did it better than Barry when it came to performance-enhancing drugs.
Stop defending him. He's indefensible.
All right, 2:29. We'll spin the wheel. Sports Roulette next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Take the Zone with you wherever you go. Download the KSL Sports app to get live streaming of your favorite shows.
Downloading.
Download the latest podcasts and get all the latest breaking news on the teams you can't live without. Everything you need delivered right to your phone.
Let's go get them where we can get them.
Just search KSL Sports on your app store of choice. Download it now. The KSL Sports app, presented by University of Utah Health. The wheel is loaded, and it's time to talk some sports. This is Sports Roulette with Hanson Scotty on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, this is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. By the way, Russell Wilson sent out the obligatory thank you, Denver tweet where he goes through all the thank yous. Although I will say this, I've read a lot of these. This is the first time I've seen this happen. Thanks his wide receivers. Thanks his O-line. Thanks the guys in the film room who do the cut-ups. That's nice. And then he goes, I'll never forget Wendy and Brandy in the team cafeteria. Daily bring in the good food, but also the even better the jams that they would give me. Thank you for always being uplifting.
That's nice.
Shout out to the cafeteria crew.
That's nice.
Well done.
He had become such a bad guy. Like it felt like.
What do you mean?
Like it just felt like he was, well, I shouldn't say bad guy. I should say very unliked. Like all of his antics. People got tired of it. Really tired of it.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say he was a bad guy because he seems like he's
his first year
an okay
was it
guy.
Was it first year or his second year where the teammate was screaming at him on the sideline? It got all the national publicity.
I can't remember.
To get off the field, or
defensive lineman that said something to him. Yeah,
it was like get off the field or stay off the field, or I can't remember what it was, but yeah, it went bad pretty quickly. It wasn't helped by who the head coach was and all the leeway they gave him. The autonomy to do what he wanted was it's just not good in the NFL. It's a bad look for the teammates.
Yeah. So anyway, Broncos have released or will be releasing Russell Wilson. Now the big question is, when does that release happen? Because if it happens immediately, the Broncos are on the hook, and it sounds like that's what they're going to do. They're on the hook for $84 million, a league record $84 million in dead money.
Yeah.
That means you're going to suck next year. But you're going to get, instead of spreading it over a couple of years, you're just going to be like, all right, you know what? We're going to suck. We're not going to have any money. We're just going to moneyball this thing next year. It's not like they don't have money. I mean, they got Walmart money. If this was baseball, this would be fine. They just, whatever, write it off and be done with it. But salary cap, you can't mess around with that thing in the NFL. And so they have a ton of dead money. And, yeah, if you're a Broncos fan, get ready. It ain't going to be fun next year.
Did you ever see that terrible movie, The Replacements?
Yeah.
That's
Keanu
what
Reeves
is going to be.
Yeah.
Going to be The Replacements.
I didn't think it was that bad, actually.
No, it was fine. It's fine. Going to be The Replacements.
The kicker that was in with the mob, John Favreau, who was all of a sudden an offensive lineman or defensive lineman. Yeah.
Linebacker or something.
Wasn't there a puncher that smoked?
Yeah,
he's the kicker.
He was the kicker. He was the guy that
gambling kicker.
Couldn't take the kick because he knew that he had to miss it. So they go, okay, well, we'll just go for it then. All right. Hans and Scotty, let's get to it. Spin that wheel.
Who wouldn't opt in, honestly?
So, Scotty, there's about 11,100 available NCAA Division I FBS athletes that could opt in. About 11,100.
Yeah.
10,000 have opted in.
Good for them.
So far.
They get the free game, what, $600 or something like that?
$600 and a $70 game. It's about $6 million that they've divvied out. They're hoping to get the others that have not opted in. That it needs to get in pretty quickly because they're building it as we speak and to get the names and everything. But they are going to have 85-man rosters on every team. And they want to try to have your name and your image as best they can incorporated into the game. Think about the amount of time that must take.
Oh, geez.
11,000.
Well, Lloyd, you created yourself on the PGA game, right? How long did that take you to do?
Actually, it was pretty easy. You just take a picture. It used to be you just take a picture with your phone or whatever, and you upload it onto the thing, and you just easily make. I mean, the guy looked just like me.
So
you didn't go in and like, oh, there's my hair color and do all that. You just uploaded a picture?
I uploaded a picture, and then I did fine-tune a couple things. But it wasn't too bad. It was pretty quick.
Well, it's coming. So they hit their 87% is what their goal was. They've hit it. And they really don't have much more to go. I mean,
just do it.
Thinking about the percentage.
Like, it's pretty cool to be part of a video game.
Yeah, being memorialized in a video game, especially one that finally returns after, years of it being missed.
Yeah.
And it really was the favorite. I much prefer playing NCAA over Madden.
I did too. I didn't really like Madden. I mean, I enjoyed it fine, but I love the NCAA. I love the recruiting. Now, granted, I haven't played that game in, 10, 11 years since it came out, and since O'Bannon Boyce got it shut down. But video games now are hard, man. Back in the day when you and I were playing, you had like two buttons and an up, down, right, left, and that was it. Now you got like, well, you do this combination if it's a contested catch, and you do this and this. And I'm like, man, just make it easy. What is this?
Just let me hit X.
Yeah.
Just let me jump up and grab it or something.
I miss Contra. I miss some of those old games that we used to have.
Yes, Contra.
Up, down, left, right, A, B, start,
Contra was amazing.
Was that Contra with the code?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unlimited lives.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Spin it.
Utah makes a hire.
So Utah hired Mike Bajakin. He is going to be an analyst for the University of Utah, but he was Northwestern's offensive coordinator last year. And, interestingly enough, that's the team that Utah faced in the bowl game. And interestingly enough, I didn't think that their offense was overly intricate or interesting, but Mike Bajakin has been around a lot of programs, been out Tennessee and Cincinnati. He's been quality control in the NFL. He's worked in the NFL for a lot of years. He jumped into the coaching world the year that I jumped into college football back in 1996. So he's been around it and been in a lot of programs. And it's not that he's a coordinator. He's an analyst.
Yeah.
So he'll help Andy Ludwig understand what he's seeing, what he thinks, give him some different percentages and details and a few helpful guides. And hopefully those two can work together well.
Never hurts to have another set of eyes on something. I mean, we talk about Gary Anderson. By the way, that's sitting really well up in Logan.
Well, I'm kidding. I can't imagine that people are overly happy about it. But, It's like we talked about, what was that, last Monday? When?
I think it was Thursday or Friday.
Last Thursday. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And we played the sound on Friday, but we talked about it. I talked at length about what I expect from Gary Anderson as part of that BYU organization, and it's not a quick, hey, how's everybody doing, and then out the door.
Yeah, go sit in on a film, because that happens all the time where, you'll bring it, like Ron McBride talks about, he would go to Wisconsin all the time and go to all these other places and sit in and watch film and kind of help out and then come home, and that'd be it. That's not the case with Gary at BYU.
My guess is Gary's going to have a pretty heavy influence.
Yeah, and he should. Look, Gary is, in terms of just flat out brilliant X's and O's, Gary's as good as it gets. Especially on the defensive side of the ball. The guy just has forgotten more about football than 99.9% of America will ever know.
He's a hell of a motivator.
He's a great motivator, great person, one of our favorite people on the planet.
But I can understand why Logan's not jumping for joy. I mean, he was running a very important part of that.
The co-founder and running the collective at Utah State,
And he put a lot of work into that.
And by the way, you know what? Even if he just steps away. Well, he has stepped away from that. But you're in a better position because of Gary Anderson and that collective than you were before.
Well,
like Gary, I don't think people really truly know that there was nothing going on up in Logan collective-wise. Nothing. They tried to dip their toe in the water with some third-party thing, and it didn't go well. And Gary and Eric Lobb said, we're going to take it over. And they were aggressive, and they got the ball moving. And look, if you're a Utah State fan and you're cranky about Gary Anderson coaching at BYU, just know that you probably don't have Jalen Royals, you may not have Ike Larson, and you probably don't have Anthony Switzer back on next year's team, if not for Gary Anderson, Eric Lobb, and that collective.
It's good efforts. So I did see the thank you that was sent out on Twitter, though.
Yeah.
It was lengthy, and it was direct, and it was really nice, and it was deserved.
100%.
It was a really nice thank you sent out by Eric Lobb and others.
And again, I will not allow anybody, and this is a little personal to me because I went to Utah State. I got a lot of connections. My whole family went to Utah State. I met my wife at Utah State. I've got a kid at Utah State. Like Utah State, I do the play-by-play for Utah State. Obviously, there's some emotional ties there. I've always admitted it. I'll continue to admit it. I've got no problem with it. Utah State would be New Mexico State right now. They might even be the University of Idaho in the big sky right now, had it not been for three people: Gary Anderson, Jim Lobb, and why am I spacing the name? The old president of the university, Stan Albrecht. Those three people, when Utah State was in a real bad situation in terms of football, because let's be honest, it's all about football, came in and said, we got to spend money and we got to improve the program if we're going to be viable. Gary Anderson got that football team back on track. You were recruited by Utah State. You know how bad it was. People forget how bad football was at Utah State for decades. It was miserable. It was the Siberia of college football. And Gary Anderson takes over, and they've been to a bowl game since, I think there's only been 2 years they haven't been to a bowl game. And one of them was a COVID year. So
since like 12?
Yeah, 2011, 2012. You're looking at 12, 13 years where at bare minimum, this team's going to a bowl game. Mm-hmm. Bare minimum. And that's because of the culture and the success put in place by Gary Anderson. So if you're cranky about Gary over certain things, whatever, you got to get over it because Gary Anderson has been nothing but an overall godsend to what Utah State football is right now. And frankly, in this era of Utah State being pretty good at football and having a couple of really spectacular years, it's essentially the godfather of it. And so if you're cranky, fine, get over it. Gary deserves to be on that Mount Rushmore of football at Utah State.
Well, and BYU must have done the right things to be able to acquire and attain him. And retain him.
Yeah.
So it's good to have him around.
Yeah, and it's good for him too because he can still dip his toes in the football waters, and yet he's not a. I don't know what his title is. I'm assuming some kind of consultant role. Is that fair? He's not a position coach.
No, well, not one of the 10. No.
Yeah, so
not an assistant. No.
So he can keep eyes on what's going on. He loves the game so much, and yet doesn't have to be in the trenches every single solitary moment of every single day.
But will be very
working
influential.
Those 100-hour weeks.
Most influential for Sione Pua, probably Kelly Popinga.
Yeah.
And Justin Enna. And I think he and Jay Hill work on the same page. Remember, he was helping out with Weber State.
Weber State, yeah. People forget about that, too. All right, Lloyd, you want to sneak in another one?
A record for the ages.
How about Caitlin Clark taking over Pete Maravich's 50-plus year standing record for all-time NCAA Division I scoring? She ended up beating his 3,667 points. It stood for 50-plus years.
Yeah.
He played at Louisiana State University. I think people are very aware of who he is around these parts. And, you know, Caitlin Clark has become a very interesting character in the world of college basketball. She's a bit polarizing. Some people love her, some people hate her. She's in the news constantly. Even in this game that she surpassed Pistol Pete against Ohio State, there were some antics where she threw a flop and pulled a tech off Ohio State. She threw a punch in the chest and didn't get the call, and all kinds of different things. She's just, for some reason, she is polarizing.
Yeah.
But she's also a draw of real interest.
Yeah. She's been so good for women's basketball.
Yeah.
And will continue to do so. She's going to, I guess the Indiana WNBA team has the number 1 overall pick. She did say she's going to forgo her COVID year and go into the WNBA draft. And so that keeps her relatively close to home in the, upper Midwest. And they're already, I follow a couple beat writers, for the Pacers and things like that. And you're already seeing all kinds of stuff coming out of Indianapolis about how all of a sudden this is a lowly WNBA franchise that nobody cares about to being the epicenter of WNBA basketball next year.
Because of what she can.
Because of what who she is.
Well, I can tell you this, there's a target on her.
Oh, yeah.
And those women in the WNBA are going to make it really difficult for her.
Yep.
I also want to mention that Pistol Pete did that had the 3,667 points in a 3-year span, played 3 years at Louisiana State, and he did it before there was a three-point shot.
Yeah, yep.
So Caitlin Clark has done a lot of her damage from the three-point line. And obviously, there's all kinds of things that you can draw in division of the two. But the bottom line is we're talking about NCAA college basketball, men's or women's. She has scored more points than any other individual.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I'm happy for her.
I'm curious now how long that record stands. All right, 2:49. We'll wrap this thing up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
Ryan Smith, Jazz and RSL owner, joining us right here on the Zone.
On the local ownership piece, I've been super fortunate to be invited to be a part of a lot of different ownership groups outside of the state of Utah. I'm interested in Utah sports. I'm not interested in Premier League overseas. I'm not interested in hockey teams outside of Utah. If it's in Utah, that's what I care about. And I care about building the brand and being able to tell a good story and do things that haven't ever been done here in Utah. Our fan base is fanatical, and that's a good thing. We're fortunate to have people who really care in this state about our sports, and I wouldn't trade that. We know what it feels like to win in Utah. It's better than anything and anywhere else, and there's nothing I want more than to be able to let this fan base have that in everything we do.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10. Presented by Murdoch Hyundai, Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer for 16 years in a row. On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty G. That's right. Yeah! On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Standing here beside you, want so much to give you this love in my heart that I'm feeling for you.
Let them say we're crazy. I don't care about that. Put your hand in my hand, baby. Don't ever look back. Let the world around us just fall apart. Baby, we can make it if we're heart to heart. And we can build this thing together.
Jones and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Wrapping up another edition of the show. Hey, by the way, nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nominations at kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon for JJ and Alex to announce the winner. Brought to you by Hercules Credit Union.
Well, get ready to enjoy some very low-level NBA basketball coming up tonight. The Utah Jazz and the Washington Wizards. Dude, I don't know what else to say. It's bad. It's bad basketball.
I know.
It's bad basketball.
Hey, you know what?
In to listen to Keyonte George go off for 31 plus.
Our listeners expect the truth from us.
Yeah, it's not good.
We can't sugarcoat this. It's not good. But
I will be watching for Keyonte George, 100%,
yes.
Lloyd, 1,000%. And a little Taylor Hendricks. But that's about it, man. Walker Kessler's out. Larry Markkinen is out. And it's like, I think Kyle Kuzma's going. So, what, you're watching to see a little former Utah action? I don't know, man. I'm going to be watching Keyonte George.
Yes.
I'm watching to see what Kuz is going to be wearing coming in to the stadium, to the arena. That's what I want to see.
By the way, if you're listening on 97.5 and you're, maybe the Jazz aren't going well, flip on over. I'll have the Utah State Coaches Show with Danny Sprinkle.
Well, yeah, that'll be good, too.
Might even bring up some of the Washington rumors that are out there, too. See if he'll address that.
Are you going to ask him?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
Well, Ajay's going to chew you out.
Kind of have to, don't I?
Saw Ajay getting in Twitter fights over it.
Oh, is Ajay getting in Twitter? Oh, jeez. That dude needs to get off Twitter.
He was standing as the guardian of...
You see that power button over there, Ajay?
Ajay, you see that send button? Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
People are like, do you think he'll leave? Ajay's like, why can't we all just enjoy a season?
Enjoy what we have.
We can't have nice things.
We're a couple of days away from a Mountain West Conference tournament, a couple of weeks away from an NCAA tournament. Can't we just enjoy basketball? It's like, well, yeah, for sure. But
it's a story.
I don't want him to leave.
Here's me in a basket. Enjoy it.
Oh, Ajay.
I'm disrobed in a basket. Let this be a distraction.
Look at this over here.
Oh, boy.
Well, good luck on that. I'd probably be rather listening to that, but I will be tuning in, I guess, to see a little bit of the Young Bull.
David Locke probably wrecked his car somewhere listening.
No, he's fine. He knows, man. He knows.
Yeah, he is skiing right now, too.
It's just not the best basketball.
Yep. All right, coming up next, JJ and Alex, thanks for making us part of your Monday. Back with you tomorrow, and we'll recap that Jazz-Wizards game. Gather around the radio, folks.
Well, hopefully we get some good storylines, like Keyonte at 31 points again. That's great.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. All right, JJ, Alex next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.